Hello and welcome to Short Stories, brought to you by the National Taichung University of Science and Technology Language Center. Today I will read a story based on a Grimm Brothers fairy tale. It's called The Seven Ravens. It's about a young girl who goes on a quest to rescue her 7 brothers. There are many stories with similar plots. The 6 swans, the 12 wild ducks, the 12 brothers, etc. One interpretation of these stories is that they are about young men who were sent off to war. There was a period in the history of Central Europe which was very violent. Feudal lords often conscripted young men to serve in foreign wars. These young men were at the mercy of their feudal masters, and they were forced to kill and die for causes that they didn't believe in. The story I have prepared today is an amalgam of these types of stories. I tried to include as many elements as I could while still maintaining the central theme. I hope I succeeded and that you enjoy it. Vocabulary: paranoid. Paranoid. He became very paranoid and believed that the government was watching him. Realm. Realm. The knights fought in defense of the realm. Wicked. Wicked. The wicked witch turned me into a newt. Peevish. Peevish. Nobody likes Tim because he is a peevish, ill-mannered person. Frantically. Frantically. When I realized that the door was locked, I frantically searched for my key. Keep mum. Keep mum. We are planning a surprise party for Jill, so keep mum. Intruder. Intruder. There was an intruder, so she called the police. Incredulous. Incredulous. The incredulous jury didn't believe the man's testimony. The story. A long, long time ago, there was a paranoid king. He imagined enemies all around him and lived in constant fear of losing his crown. This king had 7 sons, all strong and healthy. The king should have been proud of his sons, but he heard a prophecy that one day his sons would overthrow him and divide his kingdom. He hatched a plan to get rid of his sons and preserve his royal power. On the day that the king's only daughter was born, he asked his 7 sons to go to the well to draw water. The young men raced each other to the well, laughing and jostling all the way. They had no idea what tragedy was planned for them. When they arrived at the well, an old witch approached them and said, "Who dares to drink from my well?" The boys were surprised and stood there quietly for a moment. Then the oldest brother said, "We are the 7 princes of the realm. Stand aside and let us draw from the well." The witch smiled and said, "No way, Birdbrain." She then turned the 7 brothers into 7 ravens that were as black as coal. The ravens flew away and were never seen again. Many years passed, and the young sister, who was named Trudy, grew up. Trudy had no knowledge of her brothers because her father forbade anyone to speak of them under penalty of death. One day, by chance, she heard someone in the market speak about them. "Who are you talking about?" Trudy asked the stranger. "Your brothers, of course," was the reply. "Rumor has it they were turned into ravens about 16 years ago, and no one has seen them since." Trudy asked her mother about this, but the queen tried to evade the question. But Trudy kept asking, and the queen finally gave in. "Yes, it's true," said the queen. "You had 7 brothers. Your wicked father paid a witch to turn them into ravens out of fear that they would overthrow him." Trudy began to cry. "Why didn't you tell me?" she said. The queen explained the situation, but Trudy wouldn't accept it. "I will find them and bring them back," she declared. The queen tried to dissuade her, but to no avail. "In that case," the queen said, "I give you my blessing to go and find them. Take my ring with you so that they will know who you are." She placed the ring in Trudy's palm. Trudy kissed her mother and prepared for her quest. Trudy packed her rucksack, disguised herself as a boy, and set out on her long journey without telling anyone besides her mother. She walked all over the kingdom looking for clues as to where her brothers could be. One night she made camp under an oak tree and fell asleep. She dreamed that she went to the sun to ask for help. As she approached, the sun turned into a man holding a scepter. This man was peevish and hot-tempered. She did not get any help from him, so she said she would go to the moon for help. "Don't mention that heretic's name to me," bellowed the sun. "He just steals my light, you know. He won't be of any use to you." Trudy then went to the moon, which turned into a man holding a shepherd's staff. The moon was cold and reserved. She asked him for help, and he said, "I smell flesh and blood. Do you care to join me for dinner?" Trudy thought he wanted to eat her, so she left in a hurry. Next, she came to the stars, who were very friendly. She asked them for help, and they told her everything she needed to know. "Your brothers are alive," said one star. "They are trapped in an iron castle on top of a glass mountain," said another. The brightest star approached her and said, "If you want to save your brothers, this is what you have to do. You must make 7 shirts out of flowers for your brothers to wear. Take them to the iron castle. To get in, you'll have to sacrifice flesh and bone. You can use this." The star handed Trudy a chicken bone and continued his instructions. "Once inside the castle, you are forbidden from speaking or laughing. If you do, you will be killed." Trudy thanked the star, and the dream ended. When Trudy woke up, she somehow knew exactly where to go. She traveled a great distance to the glass mountain. After a difficult climb up the mountain, she came to the great door of the iron castle. There was a keyhole that was about the size of a finger. Trudy reached into her pocket to pull out the chicken bone, but it was gone. She frantically searched her clothes and rucksack, but she couldn't find it. "I must have dropped it somewhere," she said to herself. Trudy looked at the keyhole and gulped. She knew what she had to do. She stuck her finger into the hole. A sharp blade sliced off her finger, and the doors slowly opened. Once inside, Trudy walked carefully and silently. She saw an ugly dwarf carrying a bowl walk by. She followed him up the stairs to the rookery. Trudy watched silently as the dwarf placed the bowl on a small table. "Eat up, my minions," said the dwarf. 7 ravens flew in through a window and perched on the edges of the table. The dwarf left, and the 7 ravens began to eat rotten meat from the bowl. Trudy waited a few minutes before coming out of her hiding spot. The largest raven saw her and squawked, "What are you doing here? Intruder!" Trudy wanted to tell him who she was, but she remembered the star's warning and kept mum. The other ravens started cawing and clacking. Trudy remembered the ring that her mother had given her and pulled it out. "Intruder! Intruder!" they croaked. But the littlest raven fell silent and tilted his head. He looked at the ring and said, "Sister?" Trudy nodded her head, and the other ravens fell silent. They all started cawing. "Sister! Sister!" Trudy reached into her rucksack and pulled out the 7 shirts and put one on each of the 7 ravens. And just like that, they all turned back into humans. The littlest raven turned out to be the youngest brother. He hugged Trudy and said, "Thank you. I had almost forgotten who I was, but you saved me." The other brothers took turns hugging Trudy. The last to hug her was the oldest brother, who had been the biggest raven. "How's Mom?" he asked. Trudy put a finger to her lips and then pointed at the door. The brothers understood, and they crept out of the castle undetected. Once outside the castle, Trudy was free to speak. She explained to them what had happened and who was responsible. The boys were incredulous at first, but they soon realized the truth. They then came up with a plan to overthrow their father. Sometime in October, the brothers, with the help of their sister, sneaked into the castle while the king was eating dinner. Catching him off guard, they grabbed him and threw him out the window of the castle. He fell right into the well and drowned. The brothers then declared themselves to be rulers of the realm. They signed a constitution which divided the realm into 7 equal kingdoms. Every 7 years, the brothers would take turns serving as chief sovereign. As for Trudy, she was declared Lady of the Realm, a title which carried both ceremonial and administrative duties. The 7 brothers, their sister, and their mother lived happily ever after. Questions. Number 1. Why was the king afraid of his own sons? A. They were strong and healthy. B. He heard a bad prophecy about them. C. His sons wanted to kill him. D. His sons were evil wizards. The answer is B. He heard a bad prophecy about them. Question 2. Why did the queen give her daughter a ring? A. It was a family heirloom. B. It was a birthday present. C. So her brothers would recognize her. D. To hide it from the king. The answer is C. So her brothers would recognize her. Question 3. Where did Trudy find her 7 brothers? A. In the well. B. In an oak tree. C. In an iron castle. D. In Ohio. The answer is C. In an iron castle. Question 4. Who told Trudy where to find her 7 brothers? A. The sun. B. The moon. C. The stars. D. Her mother. The answer is C. The stars.